Peace, family. Welcome to another episode.
Peace, family.
Underground Railroad Productions.
Islam. What's up, everybody?
With Aseer, the Duke of Tears in New York.
Hey, what's up, man? Back in Brooty, and what's up, everybody? Islam, thanks for coming out yesterday to the great event we had. Big up to the elder, the Honorable Phil Valentine Ill, as well as Brother Panic with the heavier code knowledge. It was a great event, man. It was so many people. We couldn't, the line was around the corner, so it was really, really dope, man. Thank you for having me, my brother.
Yo, a lot of people was coming up to my queen and just telling me how good your presentation was.
Thank you, brother.
And they can't wait to hear more from you, my brother.
Inshallah, man. I'm trying to stay worthy of the praise, man. You know what I mean? Trying to stay above water and show people that we could be unified and still have differences of opinion, but come together the way it was and the way it should be with us, man.
Right, exactly.
Watch your thing, Mo. The car. Hold up.
Exactly.
Watch out, Mo.
So listen, toward the end, a brother was talking to you.
Right.
And he had brought up him being a secure party creditor.
Right.
Paperwork.
Right.
Going to court and stuff like that.
Right.
And you started going into how it's not just paperwork, a lot of things, and we was talking about, you know, how shit is in this reality.
Yes.
And you were saying how a lot of it is mental.
Yes.
And I guess that's something you can't teach somebody on paper.
Nah.
Talk to me about because you deal a lot with etymology. Somebody
Indeed.
told me the etymology of man is mind.
Yes.
Okay, could you go into that for me,
yes,
brother?
bro. The mind, again, is the, watch it back, bro.
Thank you, bro.
The mind is the aspect of us that exists between the physical, the soul, and the spirit. We've been taught that most of the things that happen to us, or they'll say like we're spirit beings, we're spiritual beings having a human experience,
right,
instead of human beings having a spiritual experience.
Right.
But when we say the spirit, then what do we talk about where the soul is? And the soul exists between what we call the spirit, which is the breath, right? The physicality, which is the body, right? And then the aspect of us, right, that manifests through that in what we call the soul. But the soul is somewhat bound to the physical, because the physical, or what we call the soul, is the culmination of how the mind, you know what I mean, works in conjunction with the breath and the physical. So when we speak of the mind, or the mind's eye, we're talking about the aspect of us that is connected to the ultra higher self that we refer to as Allah, God, Supreme Being, Jehovah, Yahweh, Krishna, whatever they want to call it. You know what I mean? Because all the different earthly designations are just variations of the same idea. So when we talk about, let's say, paperwork, in the end we're talking about another form of physical expression. It says in the beginning there was the word, and the word came into manifested in flesh, and then we are basically the representation of that.
Okay.
But what happens is the mind, the brain, which is part of the physical body, is then entranced with the ego. Watch your back, Mo. The ego itself is the aspect of, you know what, God, can you walk with him so that way in the front so he don't walk in the nut? The ego itself is an aspect of physical reality. And that physical reality is finite. You know what I'm saying? In the sense that the ego has fooled you to believe that you're it, or that it is you, when it is just there to help protect you and preserve aspects of your physicality. Because what the ego do is say, like a fly, if a fly is flying around and you try to swat it and the fly move, that means the ego in the fly said move because you're gonna die.
Okay.
So really it's about self-preservation. So therefore the ego is about self. But remember, we come from the all manifested in the one. So we're constantly talking about what we got to do for self, and not understand that it's really about I, self, Lord, and Master, meaning bringing the culmination of us as individuals with the people together, meaning that what I do as an individual reflects on what I do in my community. That's
Indeed.
why whenever one so-called black person do something bad, it's like it made us all look bad.
Right,
But
right.
Caucasian people could be out here
Ain't that
raping,
son?
killing, murdering, right? Gentrifying, pedophiling, doing all the stuff that they do, when really that is actually an aspect of their culture. And we are starting to, our problem is I feel like we try to match our ego with that. And that's not our culture. Our culture is love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality. So we're always held accountable for it where they won't be. And then we get mad, our ego get mad and be like, oh, well, how come this black man is getting locked down or whatever for this crime, but then the white guy, he do the same crime and get less time? Because they created an occupational system to put you in that box so that way that can happen. But the way that happened is because we stopped being familiar and peaceful and practicing love with each other. So as much as it is this person's, or this what some people call the Tomahawk or the Magunza or the colonizer or whatever, to me it is just a physical manifestation of what was negative or what was in us that had to be expelled. And because we started to lose love between one another, this thing rose up as the green monster, you know what I mean?
Right.
To force us back into balance with each other. So what has happened is, instead of us doing that, what do? We fall deeper into the tribalism, deeper into the ego, deeper into the sectarianism, deeper into the separatism. So when I'm reading a book of Enoch, for instance, when I'm reading the book of Enoch, that's moral science to me. When I'm reading the so-called Bible, that's moral science to me. When I'm reading the Quran, when I'm reading any book, I'm looking at the aspect of myself in it. So that allows me to retain it more than just reading it as a subject.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is you retain it more. See, what they did was they turned you against the ancient names of your people, so that, and then created pictures of other people in it, in your place, so that way when you hear these names, you automatically turn off. So when I say Phoenician, when I say Carthaginian, when I say Elamite, when I say Moabite, when I say ancient Canaanite, when I say the ancient Z people or the Anasazi or Apache, if you've been bred to believe that these are other races, then you're missing the fact that they're really talking about your ancestors.
Right.
That's
right.
you.
That's a good point.
But they made a movie about it and had Elizabeth Taylor dress up like Cleopatra, so now that means she was white, right? That don't exist. That is all a post-hypnotic suggestion. That is a manifestation of a reality that had to be slowed down to the point of almost infancy in order for the slow ones to rise up. And instead of us keeping our vibration high, we basically try to match their vibration. That's why we went from high-powered lyrics like big up to brother Cedric Ill, aka the Mighty Set G from Ultramagnetic MCs. He came through the other day.
Yeah.
And so we go from that to a little Uzi Vert or this and that. And because he has the trappings, the young homie Uzi Vert, because he has the trappings of success, what appears to be success from the eye, we act like he doing something better than what the elders did. But in essence, at least back then we could understand what these brothers was talking about. We have dummied down ourselves so much that we're not even speaking on records no more. You understand? We're dumbing down to the point. I came from an era where we was building so much with stuff that you had a plethora of stuff to pick from. Now, you have more choice in potato chips than you do in a good music. You know what I'm saying? They'll give you a better choice in cars than leaders.
Wow.
Black people are the so-called black people are the only people whose leaders are chosen from entertainment. No other race do that. And it's done like that for a reason. Because they've been engendering our society. I mean, look at this. I remember when this out.
Let's take a look. That's the
Look at this, man. This is the Apple
the
Store.
Apple Store in Brooklyn, in BK.
This is in Brooklyn. They got Brooklyn looking like Cooper Union, 14th Street, B. In another 10 years, it's going to be nothing but skyscrapers here. And then what? I remember when one of Brand Nubian lived right here. I remember when, we would have the so-called street festivals and all of that right here.
Right.
Right? I remember when we used to have the Atlantic Annex. Remember that?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Damn.
And you had and at that time you had so many different aspects of our people's cultural identities displayed. You had the Kemites, you had the Moors, you had the Nation of Gods and Earths, you had the Hebrews, you had the Christians, you had everybody doing their thing, but everybody was allowed to exist in their own lane. Now, it's like, if you don't believe or if you don't co-sign this, then I'm gonna bang on you and make you feel this, this, and that. There's Moors right now, as much love as I got for the Prophet, there's some Moors that shine me on and act like they cool with me, and then behind my back say, oh, well, he ain't doing what the Prophet did. He ain't doing this, he ain't doing that. Meanwhile, these niggas is putting people back in the church. These Moors a lot of these Moors are straight Muslim Christians, you know what I'm saying? And I'm tired of being in situations and ciphers where there are no solutions presented. And when there's no solutions, there's no commonality. And when there's no commonality, nobody's getting together to actually plan for the future. So while we're not doing that, they doing all of this. While you not planning, they create, this is one of the ugliest buildings I've ever seen in my life. This Barclays thing, it's disgusting. They couldn't get a better architect to flip this. But no, look at what they do. They put they put the Third Reich eagle right in the blue. You see that? Mm-hmm. Look up pictures. You got the light mode. They got pictures. If you go back on and look on the Third Reich, especially under a guy named Heinrich Himmler, they got the same Nazi eagle on the joint. So that's a coincidence? Look up Barclays in London and look up how they were investors
in slavery,
in
right?
Not only slavery, into the British East India Company.
Okay.
They were responsible for the Opium Wars that decimated all the original Asiatic so-called Chinese people because they didn't want to do business with the Caucasoid European after he displaced us over here. So they only wanted to do business with the original Republican government. Mm-hmm. In Japan, they call this land Beikoko.
Say that again, they called it what?
Beikoko.
Beikoko.
Right, Bei meaning Lord, Koko meaning black.
Black, right, wow.
So in that, they had to decimate them in World War II and hit them with the bomb that they were supposed to drop on the Germans. And ever since then, these dudes been all about Hello Kitty and manga and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they have a whole culture that's been bleached out. Where prior to 1945, most of the Japanese people look just like us. Darker, even in some places, especially in what they call the hinterlands out there.
Right.
But I say all of that to say that how they also flipped it was they got one of their shills, so-called Sean Carter, to act like he was the face for it.
Right.
Because what they do is they use so-called stooges, Freemasonic stooges like that, give them certain prestige so that way they can be the face. So that way when they want to gentrify a joint, they use him as the placeholder, so you think it's a black man coming up on it, when he don't even own maybe less than 0.1% of this thing. But they marketed it like it was his idea.
Right, yeah, that was it.
And because he's from Brooklyn, and because he's from Marcy, and because people done made him the god or some or whatever, and again, I'm not picking on him, I'm just using him as an example. We can go straight. And so they've created a situation of a perpetual slave mentality that only exists in the mind. So there was a brother.
Go ahead.
Mo.
So when Kanye says things like slavery was a choice, what do you think about a statement like that? 500 years of slavery sounds like a choice.
Well, what we first got to understand is that that brother is not in his original mind, and he may not have ever been. And unfortunately, when your mother is put in a position, you know what I mean, and you have lost to such a degree where you have no basis, and then you marry somebody who's a known, I don't want to disrespect his wife, but somebody who's known to be promiscuous to such a degree that there's actually pornography out on them, and this is who you choose to incarnate your children from, you cannot take anything seriously from that person. So the fact that so-called black, that was really a psychological operation to see how many so-called black people still identify with him. You understand what I'm saying? And so that is also a distraction. That and the Pusha T Drake thing, that was also a distraction. Hold on, let me get it out. To take you away from what's happening for real in the world, which is this. I got a picture. Hold on, I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
Which is this. People out here bugging, and everybody's debating on Pusha T and all of that. Meanwhile, we got a black sister who was found dismembered, and her organs taken out. Her fingers and her toes is gone, and all her organs was taken out. This happened on the same day, or like maybe 2 or 3 days before the whole thing happened. Then there was another sister, if I could find her, another sister. She was found hung, I think from in Atlanta. You understand? So you have a situation where they just talked about how there's over 35,000 so-called young black women and young black men that's just disappearing constantly.
Right.
Where they going?
Right.
Who's getting rid of them? How come this is not the first thing on our mind? How come we give a damn about what Kanye West say? When Kanye West ain't been black since since he signed with The Rock. Let's keep it real. He told you he gonna leave a black girl for the white girl. He told you that. So when he say that slavery didn't exist or that slavery was a choice, what he's really saying, in my opinion, is that if you choose to be in the system that I'm in now, you're choosing that. But if you identify with a slave mentality, then you'll always be that. And in that instance, he's right. But he's a slave himself. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
So why am I going to take his word above somebody that's well learned or even my own? Because Kanye West is not a leader. Jay-Z, Beyonce, these are not leaders. Al Sharpton is not a leader. These people are chosen for you. Black people are the only people in the world that have to have leaders. And whenever you have a leader, you see what I'm saying? You're going to be led wherever this person take you. So when it comes to other races, they have what you call ambassadors, representatives, presidents, right? Eldermen, right? Advocates, right? What do? They get all of these people out here and then they force gentrify. Look at this. This shit don't even look real. I've been to Vegas and these buildings look the same way. This is prefabricated joint. If there's a fire in this thing is kindling. This thing is going up. These things are not even real in terms of the structure. There's no actual concrete and stuff like that. None of that is in that. And they outprice this thing so that way you don't pay attention to these things. The real buildings, the brownstones that was built by our ancestors before any of these people got here. They got you believing that you are in a constant state of removal, where you are never at home where you are. Because these people who have gentrified you, marginalized you, once you get into a place where your community is popping, that's when they want to come in and shut it down. Why? Because unity means that if we get together, we're ascending back to the throne, which means they're going back to the cave. Period. It has nothing to do with me not liking so-called white people or Caucasian people. It has nothing to do with me not identifying with the slave label of so-called black. I know the difference in what that means. I'm not one of these Moors where I'm so-called black phobic, where if you say peace black man, I'm going to say, oh, well, you know, Moor, I'm not black or whatever. If that's how you understand it, that's cool. I got to know what I am. And so I'm black, but I'm not black like that. You know what I'm saying? In the sense that I'm not the negative connotation of what that corresponds to at law. We enslave ourselves based upon what we describe ourselves as, period. We talk down about ourselves at every chance we get. We are the only people who take the ignorance of us and celebrate that. No other culture do that. Every other culture want to make themselves seem like they pristine and they not doing nothing. Everybody know internationally, just go on and check Interpol, that Nigerians per se, people from Nigeria, are known for scamming. That don't mean every Nigerian do that. But when it comes to international scamming, they just found a white man who was acting as a Nigerian prince, who received over $100 million. They said this nigga was getting money for years.
Wow.
Somewhere like in the Midwest somewhere. He's saying he a Nigerian prince, and everybody's sending him money because he had what you call us doing that. I also noticed in this city, I just came from Union Square, and this city gets you to the point where you just start screaming at it. You just start screaming in the street. I just came and seen like 5 people in Union Square just bugging, just in the street bugging.
Yo, a lot of people in the city bugged out now, man.
Yes, because you're in an open prison. They got you thinking that the prison is like Brooklyn House or Rikers, when really this is the prison. Why? Look at the cell tower, look at the satellite dish, look at the cell dishes, look at the police cameras. You understand what I'm saying? All of these cameras in the world, they say crime has been going down every year succinctly. So why you got more militarization of police? If crime is going down and deaths are going down, how is it that you have more police? Shouldn't you have less police? No, you can't. Because police represent the policy. And the policy is we keep these niggas locked down regardless. Because at any point that they realize what's going on, we're all done. Not just the white folk, but the Koreans, the Chinese, everybody that's been exploiting you all these years in this country, they're gonna have to pay, or what they say, drink double a cup. But while we focusing on the so-called white man, while we focusing on the so-called racism, while we focusing on the so-called police brutality, those are symptoms of an illness. And so if you deal with the symptoms and not the illness, you can't get upset when your body succumbs to the disease. And the real disease to me is apathy, laziness, and self-doubt. Those to me are one of the 3 of the biggest things that happen. There's something in the Circle 7 Quran, which you don't have to be a Moorish American to read it. Anybody can read it, man, and get knowledge from it. But there's something in it that is referred to the 5 folds of man. And the 5 folds of man are the different aspects: greed, lust, envy, constancy, inconstancy, and all of these things. These things are the preeminent reason why we find ourselves at a constant disadvantage, because we indulge those things. Think I'm lying? There's a show on BET called, it's some sort of basketball drama show, and the lead team in the joint is called the Devils. And it's a black basketball team. Peace. All right, brother. There's a black basketball team called the Devils, and I just saw the advertisement. And on the advertisement, they're showing the black men playing ball against each other, trying to kill each other. And then there's a flash that say greed, envy, lust, hatred, this, that. Tune into Devil Nation. And then you see all the black people on the joint. Well, of course they're going to do that, because BET is owned by Soros and them. So they're gonna pump the pseudo-black feminists, the pseudo-LGBTQP, which P stand for pedophile. So if you down with that, you agree, you are condoning pedophilia now. This is what they're doing. They're trying to make pedophilia a real cool thing, so that way it becomes it's just another sexual preference. Right. They don't already made having sex with animals legal in Canada. So long as you don't penetrate an animal, you can't be tried for bestiality. Wow. This is in Canada? This is in Canada. Damn. Right now, more. So what? So that means so long as I don't put something in the animal, I'm cool. But so long as if I have the animal lick me or do this and that, that's not sex. This is how sick these people are. These people have created a society where they are actually trying to promote that it's okay to have sex with children. And you think that these people have the right to judge any civilized person? And you still put yourself under these people and want to believe that you are a U.S. citizen? No, you're not. The U.S. corporation, the occupational government, which was founded in 1861 under the Emergency War Powers Act that eventually came what they call the Lieber Code. If you really want to get into it, what really happened was that they forced an agenda, and Lincoln and them put out something to say that the United States federal government, which is a foreign government, to the Republic of the to the Republic of so-called America, what they call United States of America, and General Congress assembled. That's the original preamble government that existed here under the Articles of Confederation, under the Articles of Association. And that government was based on our people.
Right.
Period. So when Lincoln came in, he said, we're going to make the Negro and the white man both equal under the federal government. And those of us that was free said, hell no. I'm not going to be equal to the people you just bringing over here as slaves.
Right.
And so we fought a war.
That's what the war was about.
That's what the war was about. The right for the individual estates to maintain a confederacy. And so a white confederacy was founded outside of our original Haudenosaunee Confederacy to fight the white so-called government. And in return, they would receive certain benefits from us. When they lost the war, all the countries, all the states that were going to be let back into the United States had to adopt the 14th Amendment. And if they didn't, they would be burned down and killed.
Which the 14th Amendment, which was?
The 14th Amendment, which says that everybody is basically a slave under the federal government, and that involuntary slavery is illegal so long as you're not punished by a crime. So if we can lock you up, you can be a slave legally. And so that created the original so-called Libra Code that was then adopted by the Belgian Conference in 1888, which then led to the deep colonization of Africa. You understand? So what I'm showing you is they use the same code here to break our republic and then force everybody into being citizens of the United States, which means that they are subject to a foreign power, an inferior state, when they were subjects of a foreign power, which was the republic and the empire that was already here. And we can find the proof of this, in the letters that were written to the governors by the military general that established the new government that started in 1867. So that means, brothers and sisters, if they didn't create the U.S. citizen mandate until 1871, what were the people that were here prior to the creation of the U.S. citizen? They were Americans, because they were in the republic. So whether you realize it or not, when the Prophet Jew Ali said that I am a true American citizen, he didn't say that he was a citizen of the United States. That's some shit that they flipped up later after they reorganized the Moorish Science Temple in 1938, when they put the traitor C. Kirkman Bey in charge, and then he went in and changed it up and brought the Freemasons into it, and it's been all messed up ever since. Now this don't mean all temples is like that. But I'm saying that all of the black organizations that came after the MST of A were all had the influence and knew that there was an actual way for us to go back to our original state without having to be subjected to being citizens of a country that has labeled us enemy combatants. The other irony is, after the United States switched the jurisdiction and they let everybody back into the so-called new corporate occupational government, they had to leave a way out for those of us that remembered that we had our own steeds.
Right.
So this is where, when they say founded in for the republic which it stands, one nation. Where in any did it say anything about a democracy? It doesn't. Because democracy means a demonized government, a demonstrative government, meaning it's not real. It's under a colorable law. So anything that's colorable is not real. But in a colorable law-based society, you have to be a color for them to have jurisdiction. So here comes black. This is why you got to be black. Because that's what they were prior to the conflict. And then what they did was they just switched you under what's called the Emancipation Proclamation, which emancipate does not mean to free. It means to change ownership. So that means the ownership was switched where the so-called whites became black. That's the etymology of
that word.
That's right. In the Latin, emancipato.
Wow.
So when you have these Moors out here and these blacks out here purposely miseducating people, telling them that they're citizens of the United States, when they know damn well, or they should know damn well, that in the Republic, you can't be a citizen of the United States and American at the same time. You got to be one or the other. In order to be an American, you have to have a nationality. That's why people with the nationalities go far in America. Italian Americans got their own community, right?
Right.
Irish Americans got their own community, right? Indian Americans got their own community, right?
Indeed.
What do black Americans have? A ghetto. Prison. You think that's by chance? No, that's by design. Because they know you niggas don't read. And they know that somebody like me kicking this to you, you're gonna try to find something wrong with me to not listen to me. So I say keep doing that. don't believe me. You dig what I'm saying? Don't believe me. Don't follow through in what I'm saying. Don't research the letter that the last governor of North Carolina wrote. The last true Republican governor of North Carolina wrote the military guard that was going to come and kill him if he didn't give up the seat. That means then that we have not been under a real government since 1861. That's why we walked out the Congress. And we were supposed to come back and reconvene it. But they established a dictatorship, and then when Lincoln wanted to get us out and put us back under the thing through the Freedmen's Bureau, they killed him. And then what happened? They started to then extend the jurisdiction all over the world. So they took the same code to do what they did here, brought it over to Africa, and put it into what they call the Belgian Conference of 1888. And you see what happened with all that. Another thing, when these so-called blacks is on TV and they showing you pictures of Leopold and the Congo and all that stuff that happened out there, and they show you with the Moor with the feathers on, right, and brutalizing the Africans.
And they say those were the traitors, right?
Come on now, Moor. This is how you know Negroes don't read. One, because those people that you see in those places had already been in conflict before Leopold got there. And those people, all that happened in Eastern Africa. So those were Somalians, those were Kenyans, those were Ugandans, those were the other one, Ethiopians, Eritreans, and Congolese. And specifically, they were Bantu, Swahili, and Hutu peoples who were at war with each other for so long that when Leopold came, he said, I'm gonna hook up with these blacks to break down these blacks. And just in case, to throw shade on the Moroccans, put this hat on. That's why when you look at the feathers that they wear, they don't look like these.
No, they don't.
We don't wear feathers with writing on it. We ain't Shriners. I mean, we Shriners in the Moorish aspect sense, but we don't put on no aprons. We don't write nothing on our feathers. Because what they don't tell you, Shriners, is that the name on the top of the fez represent the Moor that used to own you. Islam. Yeah. Yup. But they won't tell you that.
Word.
Yeah, because you niggas think you doing something when you walking down with a fez that's tacked down. A fez that's tacked down is like when deviants put what they call penis clamps on themselves to inhibit their manhood. Only women wear aprons and cooks. You dig what I'm saying?
Indeed.
We didn't do that. We gave that to them because they were so savage at one point, they ripped off their loincloths and was naked. So we gave them an apron to cover their nakedness, to give them some shame. And once we walked them 2,200 miles to the 6 hills of West Asia, they ripped it off and ran up into the hills. That's why you got a lot of them is being born with tails and stuff to this day. Don't believe me? Look it up. So what I'm saying, bro, and what I'm saying to the people is they've been mind controlling you for so long that they put you against yourself, and anybody that comes to help bring you out of it, they castigate and make you castigate them. So they want you to believe again that Moors enslaved all of the Africans when the people that was over there was not Moroccan, they was not Al-Moroccan, they was not Moorish American, they were not of the Maghreb Al-Aqsa, meaning the Morocco of the farthest west.
Indeed.
They were Eastern Africans who spoke African dialects. So the Africans sold themselves into slavery and brutalized themselves in the Congo. And if you don't believe me, do the knowledge. There was nobody speaking Arabic, no so-called Moors that was out there speaking Arabic and all that. Those was all Africans brutalizing each other on behalf of the European Leopold.
I got one last question for you, Brother Aseer. What's your take on, I mean, you see, you have such a vast knowledge of history. The last interview me and you did on YouTube was about, we was dealing with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry.
Yeah.
We see more and more interracial relationships happening all over.
Yeah.
So is the world gonna be just this this golden race in the future? Like, is that what's going down?
That's what they may want, but it'll never happen. Because, matter of fact, you saying that, it's good that I'll be finding stuff just in case. Watch your step, Mo. Where's it at? Here it go. See? Right for you. The white race of Europe. Look at this. Now, they said that the white race is declining all over the planet. Their birth rates is 0. So everywhere there's Caucasian people, they actually dying off in mass. What does this say? The white races of Europe should be destroyed and replaced with the race of Eurasian Negroids who can be easily controlled by the ruling elite. Who said that? The Judeophile and the EU founding father. Who is that? Richard Coudenhove, what is that? Clergy. In this, I don't have my glasses, but this basically says the idealisms of superiority. So in this, what you're seeing now is them trying to reincarnate themselves and come back as a whole race of Obamas. This is what they want to do because their birth rate is 0. They're dying off. They don't have any other way to produce numbers. So what they need to do is create a slave race that thinks it's free by merging themselves genetically with the only people that are going to survive the total shift as we move into the 4th, 5th dimension totally. The Chinese people is doing the same thing in Africa. See what I'm saying? The Europeans is doing the same thing in places like Ecuador, Argentina, Guatemala, Panama. They trying to go and get, you got whole industries of Caucasian women that go to Africa just to have multiple sex with multiple partners, what they call black bread. There's a whole group of Caucasian girls that's out here being gangbanged by hundreds of different white men. Look it up online, I ain't bugging. It's called being black bread, where they want to breed the white man out. They said, these white women saying that the black man is a superior race, he's going to outlast everybody else, so we want to get the head start on it. Again, it's a double-edged sword.
This is called black bread?
Yeah, they're calling it, you're being black bread. Look up online, you'll see it.
Wow.
And in that, there's a whole Caucasian women that's doing that. That's why you see so many Caucasian people with melanated babies or so-called mulatto babies. But these babies are not being given the true knowledge of they self. So what's happening is you incarnate in these people with melanin, with the mind state of a white supremacist. So what you're gonna do? You're gonna create a whole nother race now in which those of us that's so-called traditionally black, right? Now we're gonna have to contend with the light-skinned progeny that's been made to purposely try to re-educate or redistribute us off the planet. It'll never happen because Allah is the best planner, and nothing that is done in the dark is stay in the dark. It always comes to the light, and regardless of who or what, it's predicted that all of these people gonna fall. It's predicted that anybody that's helping them is gonna fall. So all of this folly you've been seeing in the conscious community, all these people banging on each other and cursing each other out and disrespecting women and disrespecting each other. Meanwhile, all these niggas is friends behind the scenes, going to ritual orgies, going to Freemasonic lodges together, and giving you consciousness and telling you, on one hand telling you that you God, on the other hand telling you that you a monkey, and they don't want to have nothing to do with black people. Fuck everybody in the ghetto. These are your leaders. This is the new crop now they want to use to replace the entertainers. Harry Belafonte, all of them old boule dudes, they did what they felt they could do, but they wasn't doing enough because they felt that they couldn't move ahead with a black woman on their arm. The same way you got it now. So when we look at somebody like Meghan Markle, you gotta understand, black people want to claim her now, but her first husband was Caucasian. Y'all ain't know that? She don't do it. Look at the TV show Suits. They had her have sex almost with a white man almost in every show. Look at the movies that come out. All of the movies that come out, it's always a black woman with white men. Look at Wrinkle in Time. It's a little black mulatto girl trying to save her white father, who's banished into eternity because of all of the negative experiments he did. Who that sound like? They're trying to get you to trick them. They're trying to trick you into give them another 600 years of life. And you people that want to do that, do that. But it's already predicted that a time is going to come where there's going to be a distancing. And the kingdom of the devil going to exist, and the kingdom of the righteous going to exist. But the only way we can get there is to get there now in the mind. Because the mind's eye is eternal. We only here for a second. There's a millisecond even. This is not even a true vetted reality. This is a simulation. We are actually on the other side of this consciousness, projecting ourselves as light beings to inspire those of us that are first round humans. Meaning those of us that were here before everybody. And the only people that was here before everybody was us. And I'm not talking about us from the Lucy monkey, that's another trick making you believe that the black woman is a monkey, right? And that she is the oldest fossils they found of this so-called hominid, when really the Orang Pendek, or the Mongol boy, or the Mongol man, or the what's the other one? The UN monkey, the Orang Pendek monkey. This is their ancestors. Darwin told you that. So don't get mad at me. That's what he told y'all, and y'all based a whole society on that, and then tried to create a whole system called eugenics to get me to devalue myself, to make me think that my carbon-rich skin is somehow inferior to this pale aspect. When one cannot exist from another, you can never get a black crayon from a white one. Like, what are these niggas, what are they thinking? But again, it has nothing to even do with color anymore. It's consciousness. I know some people that are blacker than so-called dark skin, almost blacker than midnight. They got the whitest mind you could ever find. And then I know some Caucasian light-skinned people that's ready to get it popping on the Tamahu right now. So who's more advanced? Those of us that choose to be. So when Kanye say slavery is a choice, it may be a choice today, but when we really get into the etymology of it, we can never be slaves because we are not Slovenians. The only people who were enslaved on earth were Slovenians from the place called Slovakia, who were the ancient descendants of the Ashkenazi who came out of the 6 hills of the Caucasus, that the Moors went in and found that the males were not able to reproduce because they were having sex with each other and interbreeding, but the females were tend to do that. So they took the females and sequestered them. That's why when you look at a lot of the old pictures that you see of the Moors in antiquity, you'll see them in harems with all these white women.
Right. Oh,
because they were using them to basically create the mutated races that we in here now. Because the Moors were falling out with themselves so much that they needed a way out. But when I say Moors, I'm not just talking about people from the empire. I'm talking about any melanated person who was dealing with a high form of science with the knowledge of I self-law and master. So the Moors was the Dogons, the Mali, the old Songhai Empire, the Moros in the Philippines, the Champas, the Nagas, all of that was us and is still us. We are still those people today. The only reason why you can't benefit from what your ancestors left you globally is because you've agreed to a contract that you are an inferior being. And it has nothing to do with anything that they telling you it is. We will never move forward if we are using colorable titles to describe ourselves, period. So you don't have to be some people like, oh, I want to be a Moor, but I don't want to be I don't want to wear no fez, I don't want to wear no turban. Okay, but you quick to put on a dress, you quick to put on lipstick for a check. You know what I'm saying? You quick to disrespect your brother, you quick to disrespect your sister, you quick to do a quick YouTube tape instead of calling a person on the phone and speaking to them like a man or a woman. This whole culture has become effeminized to the point where men don't speak up for themselves, where men act like women, and now the women gotta act like men. And guess what? The woman, especially the original woman, she don't want to do that. In my heart of hearts, I still believe that the original woman, original so-called black woman, love us. She do. But we have been in such a disenfranchisement with each other that we are blaming each other, when really the culprit is right here. Look at this devil. There he go. There he go. Are they going to come down and break this down? No. Do you understand that George Washington had slaves? So if you breaking down the Confederate statues, you need to get rid of him too. Because the Union wasn't no better. You do what I'm saying? The Union, these people wasn't no better. And nobody even cared who he is. But because he was a master mason, you see him standing with the right foot in front, right? With the right on the left at the 90-degree angle. He's showing you that he was a part of the Union society of the Magna Carta that worked to establish a superior so-called white race that they could use to displace all of the original people. Right now, as we was walking up this hill right here, back in the ancient times, this whole thing was mounded out. We fought one of the biggest wars in the old empire right here in Prospect Park. That's why they have the 4 corners on it. See that? 1, 2, 3, 4. And at the top, they got the eagle. The eagle is symbolic to the Scorpio. Whenever you see an eagle, you also see a scorpion. And we also know that the scorpion represent that which is deadly to the touch, right? Over here, we got the Grand Union, the Grand Army, right? These are all of the people that fought for the freedom of Caucasian people on behalf to negate the so-called Confederacy of the Moors. If we go in the front, you can see that. If we go into the front of the Brooklyn Museum, back in the day, is one of the first ones we did together, decoding the Brooklyn Museum, right? When we bust down the whole joint, remember that?
Yeah.
We decoded the whole joint. And the whole joint show you the history of the Moorish Empire being broken, put into secret. But because we are at a so-called disadvantage, we don't generally understand the position that we're in. And the position we're in is we were never slaves. We are prisoners of war. And the war was to take our land and put us under a subordinate position. And regardless to how many liberals and Democrats is out here that want to advocate for your rights, they do not want to advocate it to the point that you are back on top. Don't ever think that. Don't ever think that they will ever support you to the point that you will be where you are. There are going to be certain aspects of them. I know a lot of so-called, you know how they say I know a lot of good white folk, right? I know some of them. And some of them is ready to bang harder on their own people than our people. But I'm not going to put them above us. But at the same time, I'm not going to cast them to the back because some of them is ready to get busy quicker than, again, our own people. Why? Because our own people believe the lie about themselves. They believe that they were slaves from a place that they could never be deported back to. And regardless to who or what, until you can show me a slave, B.O.B. quoted me, and then it became a viral thing. And then they acted like it started with him. But I'm the first one that said, how is it that I could show you a dinosaur bone from 250 million years ago, but you can't show me a slave ship from 250 years ago? Even the dinosaur bones that they show you is fabricated. It's not real. You know why? Because a fossil is something that is imprinted into the ground. So that's like me going into the beach and then imprinting my hand into the ground and then leaving it. And in 1,000 years, somebody see that hand. And then what they do is then they cut the hand out and then try to make a composite of what the person who put the hand in is. Is that a real fossil? No. That is fabricated. Anthropology is a myth. These are all pseudosciences based on eugenics. And they got Negroes going to school to get degrees in that. So that way when they come to somebody like me with all these degrees talking about, oh, well, I'm a degree in American history and this, and that. First thing I ask them, what's your nationality? Soon as they tell me, oh, well, I'm half this and half, get away from me. You can't even speak to me. I'm not even speaking to nobody that can't stand within their own too. Because if you are under the jurisdiction of somebody else, you can't stand up, which means you're not free. And only free people can be Americans. So if you want to be a corporate, occupational, human capital to the so-called United States as their citizen, that they have listed you under the Trading with the Enemy Act as an enemy combatant, the only way you cannot be that is to be an American, because when you go into an American or a Moorish American, you have a treaty of peace and friendship that automatically now applies to you, and that is enforced by the supremacy clause of the Constitution. I know because I've taken it that far. And no other Moor, nobody can tell me what I've done. You understand what I'm saying? So you have Moors and all of that, and again, I'm not trying to beat my chest, but at the same time, you got to stand firm in what you know is true. And what I know is true is what I know because I went out and did it. I didn't wait for some Grand Sheik to give me something. I didn't wait for anybody to do that. When I was inspired by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, and I read what he actually left, and I actually applied it to my time now, I actually received the benefits of it. And I'm not going to keep that to myself, but I'm also not going to take what we've been doing privately and just destroy it by throwing it in the public. That's why if you notice, the stuff that I'm doing, like concerning our badges and our paraphernalia and things like that, I'm not even bringing that to the forefront. Because you got people that's straight agents now, that's doing lectures, that's setting up courts with people, that's got pictures of them with George Bush on Air Force One. But then on this Facebook page, they got little pins on with Moorish Americans. But again, when you say that you were Moor and I'll never see you in no habit, when you say that you conscious and I'll never hear you talk about nothing that's dealing with your true ancestry, you ain't got to be so-called Moor or Moorish American or whatever. But just be aware enough to not negate one ancestor over the other. I'm not going to pick my voodoo ancestors over my Candomblé ancestors. I'm not going to pick my Kemite, my Egyptian ancestors over my Phoenician ancestors. I'm going to accept them all because they all in me now.
Indeed.
We are our ancestors' return. So again, man, if it's not for brothers like you that's actually out here bringing people the real knowledge without the debates, without the hatred, we have to learn to love instead of hate, man. We got to learn to big each other up instead of tearing each other down. That's why we're being picked off. That's why we got sisters that's missing. And instead of people, Kanye bringing awareness to that, he talking to you about how he getting money and how he better than you niggas and how he don't have identify with you and how now he was on opioids, so that's why he said that and this and that. Stop looking at fools to lead you. Stop looking at entertainers to give you anything but a show. Stop looking at pseudo politicians that are bouled out. Big up to Steve Coakley, because if it wasn't for him, bless the honor dead. Big up Francis Quest Wilson. Big up C. Freeman L. Big up who's another one who passed? Khalid Muhammad. Big up Dr. Sabi. Big up some of these people. Some of our people never even heard of these people. You understand? So whose fault is that? They can remake history all they want. In 10 years, they can make you think that Eminem was Melly Mel. And you Negroes will believe it, because most of us is trying to bleach into them and then creating babies now that's born with no rhythm, born with no understanding who they are, that's not accepted by the black side, that's not accepted by the white side. So what they going to do? They're going to form their own thing and get rid of everybody else. So you better start to really tune yourself up mentally, spiritually, eternally, and understand that we are all works in progress, man. We are all individuals that are here to surpass this thing, and that we incarnated here to learn certain things so we don't have to reincarnate and do it again. So we can finally go to the higher octaves and then send the star forces down here to bring our people up at one time. But we cannot uplift fallen humanity if we laying on the floor with them. So again, man, thank you, Brother Rich, for having us out here. Thank you for putting on the event. Thank you for everybody from all over the world that was on the live stream, that's been hitting me all day. People been hitting me so much, I can't even pick my phone up. I gotta hit everybody back when I get back to Andalusia. Also, you wanna find the original name of the places that you live in and start referring to it as that. That's one of the first steps to get you out of the jurisdiction. So right now, I'm always in the Empire of Morocco, or Al-Maghreb Al-Aqsa, which means the Morocco of the farthest west, but this part was called Brutium at one point. At another point, it was called Amsterdam. At one point, it was called Gothamum. At one point, it was called Londinium. You understand? Just like where I'm in the Florida Republic, that was New Spain. That was also, or is also, Andalusia. North Carolina is Tuscarora, which is Old Turkey. Get you an exotic map of the United States and look at what the original places was called. Every place that's in Europe and Africa and all that is right here. So again, man, this is why everybody in the world come here. You cannot be deported to somewhere where you don't come from. Stop going to these. I used to support 23andMe, dead that. Because once we started doing that, what is now happening is that these companies that's doing your DNA, you existed longer than them. So how they going to tell you who you really are? And especially if they telling you that you sub-Saharan African, Native American, all of those are slave terms. So when you get that now, you know what else they doing? They taking your genetics and selling it to cloning farms, cloning centers. So right now they got algorithm versions of you. All of y'all that's going out there, you better do it. I know somebody on Facebook that just put a lien on Ancestry.com or something like that for doing just that. Because they found that they took their blood samples and stuff and was selling it to the black market.
Crazy, man.
So again, man, love yourself, love your people, love your woman, love your man, love your child. Stop focusing on the negative and build your higher self. The higher self is what we perceive as God, and that's the supreme being. So whether you believe in spirit or not, it don't matter. It believe in you. And it is giving you the choice as the Lord of this realm to believe in it or not. So when it says God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son to die for you, they not talking about Jesus Christ. They talking about the internal sun in you, the real you that exists outside of this dimension that has given this body here to act as a vessel to show everybody else what they can aspire to. So let's stop the bullshit, man. Let's get it together. Anybody want to holler at me, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. Like I said, big up to all of the MST of A's, of course, the Eels and Bays and the Wills and Ways. Big up to the Empire. Long live the Empire. Big up to all of the original people in the conscious community and the newcomers. Welcome. Don't get caught up in the traps. Know what you see. Trust your gut. Follow your intuition. Man knows not for being told. Truth is aught. Allah is aught. And falsehood is naught. So again, man, love and light.
You got a website, my brother?
Yeah, hit me up. If you would like to check some of my material, you can go to www.aseertheducateers.com. You could also go to www.gumroad.com. Type in Aseer the Ducateers in the chat, and then all my classes and everything will come up. You can order them. They like some of them are 2 hours a piece, 4 hours a piece. I do online classes every Sunday from 9 to 11 Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to holler at me about that, also if you want to holler at me about the Imperial Foreign Ministry or anything that we're doing in terms of our indigenous government, you could do so. But again, we're not even taking membership or nothing right now because there's too much fake governments out here trying to get everybody involved with stuff that's not basically going to put them back in the trap. And again, man, the greatest leader you can follow is the heart, man, because Allah exists in the heart. And you have to reconcile what exists in your heart and your mind. Your mind will fool you. Your eyes will fool you, but your heart never will. So again, man, let's keep that muscle pumping and let's do what we got to do, man, to get free. Because we are already free. We just have to come out of the simulation. So again, man, big up to all the elders that came before me. Big up to all the elders that'll come after me. And anything that we could do to work, man, let's do it.
And on that note, I want to thank you, brother, for coming to town.
Peace, bro.
Thanks for showing love, doing what you do. The people definitely loved it.
Islam.
Shout out to the people that came through with you. This brother, what's your name, brother?
Brother Tariq. This one of our muftis in the Imperial Foreign Ministry, holding me down when I travel and stuff. So again, man, let's keep it moving. Let's really be productive. Let's open businesses, build communities, stop buying drugs, stop buying lean, start buying a block. Right now in every city in the country, there are blocks, whole blocks for sale for almost no money. The same money you would get to get that eighth to flip on the block and break off the wet, you could take that money and buy your whole block and then set up your whole thing. Big up to Rollo. The Moors, we got to go and get the brother out. That brother did a lot of good work. That brother brought up a whole project, a whole block. He had them singing, he had them praising and doing the Adhan every morning.
Yeah.
You understand? So they'll roll on him, but niggas like Kanye and Gay-Z and the rest of these niggas is out here all working with impunity. Because again, the devil will support its own until you need to be sacrificed. Don't believe me? Look at Bill Cosby.
And on that note, we signing out, family. Peace.
Peace.